Good morning, Morgan, and of course, any of Morgan's friends that have tuned in to the video. In today's video, the 15th video in the series, we're going to build off of what we talked about in video 14 in regards to objects, the objects that we use to store the information, the different types, data types that these objects can be, and the methods, which are little bits of program that access the object and manipulate the data in various ways. Add, delete, modify, that sort of thing. Okay? And so what we're going to do is we're going to be focusing on one particular data type, the list. Okay? And we're going to kind of like roll through all the various ways that you can manipulate the data in the object. Okay? Before we do that, I want to show you how a little tip here. All right, so what we're going to do is let's put out the name of the object that I just created, F100. Okay? Now, watch what happens when I put the little period here. Boom. Look what happens. We get a list of all the methods associated with a list object. Do you understand what I'm saying? Is this particular list object we call F100. But when you create these lists, you can call them whatever you want. And no matter what you call it, the machine is smart enough to know that it's a list object, and it knows to give you a list of all the methods that you can use to manipulate the data in that object. And that's what this little list here is for, right? Now, that's a little aside. Now, with that, let's go ahead and take a look at the manual, and then we'll run the code, and then we'll talk about this some more. All right? Well, let's go on and open up the manual, shall we? All right, here we are in the manual, and we're going to go through the examples and a little example of the different methods, and it'll tell us a little bit about exactly what it does, and then we'll go ahead and play with this in the code.
Python Training Video 15. More on lists. The list data type has some more methods. Here are all of the methods of list objects. List.append x. Add an item to the end of the list. Equivalent to a, len, a, equals, x. List.extend, iterable. Extend the list by appending all the items from the iterable. Equivalent to a, len, a, equals iterable. List.insert I, x. Insert an item at a given position. The first argument is the index of the element before which to insert, so a .insert 0, x inserts at the front of the list, and a .insert len, a, x is equivalent to a .append x. List.remove x. Remove the first item from the list whose value is equal to x. It raises a value error if there is no such item. List.pop I. Remove the item at the given position in the list and return it. If no index is specified, a .pop removes and returns the last item in the list. The square brackets around the I in the method signature denote that the parameter is optional, not that you should type square brackets at that position. You will see this notation frequently in the Python library reference. List.clear. Remove all items from the list. Equivalent to del A, smiley face. List.index x, start, end. Return zero-based index in the list of the first item whose value is equal to. Raises a value error if there is no such item. The optional arguments start and end are interpreted as in the slice notation and are used to limit the search to a particular subsequence of the list. The returned index is computed relative to the beginning of the full sequence rather than the start argument. List.count x. Return the number of times x appears in the list. List.sort key equals none, reverse equals false. Sort the items of the list in place. The arguments can be used for sort customization. See sorted for their explanation. List.reverse. Reverse the elements of the list in place. List.copy. Return a shallow copy of the list. Equivalent to a smiley face. An example.
All right, now it goes through all those examples to try and make you understand what they just said. By the way, Morgan, if you're completely confused and got nothing from that last bit of reading, don't panic. I'm going to fix that, okay? Because the reason I know that you're thinking this is because I didn't understand any of it either. But I'm going to teach you how to make sense of this very technical jargon, okay? All right, but we'll talk about that more later. Let's just go ahead and finish this last little bit up, and then we'll get to the code.
You might have noticed that methods like insert, remove, or sort that only modify the list have no return value printed. They return the default none. 1. This is a design principle for all mutable data structures in Python. Another thing you might notice is that not all data can be sorted or compared. For instance, none, hello, 10 doesn't sort because integers can't be compared to strings, and none can't be compared to other types. Also, there are some types that don't have a defined ordering relation. For example, 3 plus 4j less than 5 plus 7j isn't a valid comparison.
Okay, before we go to the code, I want to just hit on this last little bit, okay? The j here represents, is telling them that this could be an imaginary number. The result could be an imaginary number. Okay, and the reason why we call it an imaginary number is because we don't know how to write that value down. It's very high-end math, so you don't have to worry about it. Okay, but I just wanted to explain that there is something going on that's important, but you don't have to worry about it because unless you're going for a PhD in mathematics, you'll never have to use this. But as a programmer that uses the program has to be able to do that for those types of users, okay? All right. Well, with that, let's go to the code, and I'm going to try and explain, make sense of what you just read. All right? All right. All right. We're back to the code. But before I run it, I just want to let you see. By the way, look over here. This shows you just how much code is in this little script, okay? All right, so it's quite a bit, but it's just, you'll see it's repetitive. So we took the code from our example in video 14, and we just built off of that, okay? Because all we did is we're taking the list object that we created in this example, and we're using the methods that we just talked about on that list, and then we're taking before and after pictures so that we can better understand and comprehend what's going on. So that's what we're doing. We're just repeating a little bit of code over and over again for each type of method that accesses this object type. And now we're going to run the code. Boom! All right, it didn't blow up. Okay. All right. Well, let's go ahead to the output, and we'll talk about it more over there. All right. Here's the output. Okay. Well, what do we have here? First thing we do, using the code from the last video, video 14, we create a list object. Okay. Using the same function that we defined in that video. All right? And we put the 100 in, we run it through the function, and we get, boom, ta-da! And we actually did this in last video's example, but I kept it in here because guess what? We're studying the methods that access list objects, and append is one of those methods. And it just adds whatever we put in here to the end of the list. Okay, and in this case, it adds 101 to the end. And we see that is happening. Okay? All right, now here we create a new list object called 200. And let's see, after the create. Okay, so there's nothing there until we create. We do the creation, and after the creation, we now have a copy of F100. Okay? Right. Now let's see, before the clear, after the clear. We use the clear method to wipe that out. And guess what? After the clear. Now, we want to do a count. Okay, we want to use the count method, and we want to see how many ones there are in this list, which is the 100. And apparently there are 2. So it returns 2. Okay, that's how many there are. All right, now what's the next one that we're going to use? Oh, we have to recreate 200 because, you know, we wiped it out. But this time, we're going to say 200. So we get an extra item at the end, 144. Okay? All right, now what we want to do is we do want to do an extension. We want to add on to the list F100. Okay? So, what does F100 look like before we do the extend, and what's it look like after? Here, you see what it looks like, and then after we've taken everything that was in F200 and we've added it to the end of that list. Okay? Now, here we want to do an index. We want to find the index of a member of the list, which happens to be the number 13, and it returns 7. And if you do the math, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, boom, 7. Turns out it's correct. Okay? Now here we're doing an index. And I forget, what does the index do? No, the insert. I'm sorry. We're at the insert. So what we're doing with this insert is we're going to go to the index 4, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, we're going to go there, and we're going to add a 4 after that, in that spot, right? So that's what we do. We add the 4 right before the 3, so it gets pushed to the end. Then, with the population, we can remove items from the list, and that's what we're doing here. We're going like delete 4, and look, it's gone. Okay, and then we can also, another way to get rid of stuff is like going, are there any 5s in here? Get rid of the 5s. That's what we use the 5 for. So here's the difference between the remove and the pop. The pop, you use the index to identify the item that you want deleted from the list. And in the remove, you freaking actually describe it. Any 5. So this is actually where this pop will only remove one item. The remove will take out if there are more than 1 5, it'll take them all out. I think that's how it works. I could be wrong. Then the reverse. Now this is kind of cool because what we're going to do is we're going to reverse the list. And here's what it looked like before, and here after. Look, the 144 went from last to first. And then the last method here is the sort, and we just put it in numeric order. Now there are options, you know, on how to sort it, in what order and all that stuff. And all that's in the manual. Now, speaking of the manual, okay, now that you have a better understanding how these methods work, you can, if you reread the manual, it'll start to make sense. And here's another thing. When reading these manuals, you have to understand they're written pretty much in a foreign language. learning how to read technical manuals is equivalent to learning a new language. So it's going to be frustrating, but it's also extremely gratifying when it starts to click. And you will find that feeling very appealing. Anyway, with that, we're going to end this video and go off, Princess, have some fun through your afternoon. Go ride your one-wheeler around, and we'll see you in the next video.